Welcome to the So Much More podcast, where we talk with people in the custom window treatment, soft home furnishings industry, and so much more. I'm your host, Ciel DeGuglielmo. Good morning, Jonathan. It's so good to see you.
Good morning. It's good to see you too.
And we are here today for kind of a tough conversation. This week, we lost our friend Kevin Kise, and I'm rerunning the podcast that I recorded with him a while back. But since you and I were recording a podcast, I thought it might be nice if we had a chance to talk a little bit about what Kevin meant to our industry, what he meant to you personally, because you were close friends, and how so many people felt like they were close friends with Kevin, because that's who that man was.
You got it.
So I would love for you to tell us a little bit about Kevin and how you got to know him and the impact he had on you.
All right. Well, here's a crazy story. So several years ago, probably, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago, I was doing some window treatments, which I no longer do, but for a friend. And she needed to have holdbacks for these draperies in her bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
And so we finally decided on a thing. And when it was all said and done and the draperies were installed with the holdbacks, I sent a picture of the whole thing to our wonderful friend Bianca Henry down in Durham, North Carolina. And Bianca went crazy over this picture because of what we use for the holdbacks. And so she wanted to know, could she post it on one of the window treatment groups? And I said, well, you certainly can, but I'm not going to be responsible if you get kicked out and banned from the group, because this is kind of racy. She says, I'm not worried about it. So she posted the picture and people went crazy fun over it. I don't think there was anybody that was offended, I don't think. But anyway, Kevin Kise reached out to Bianca and wanted to know where the holdbacks came from, because he had to have a pair of them. And she says, well, ask Jonathan. I don't know who that is, whatever. So anyway, that's what got the conversation started with Kevin and I for a fabulous friendship. Now, to describe these holdbacks, they are brass. They came from Etsy page. My client found them, and they are very phallic. And that's all I will say about that to keep this very PG.
And we're not going to post a picture of them on the So Much More podcast page, because that is also PG and I might get kicked out of Apple Podcasts.
Yes, and we don't want to do that. So at any rate, so that's what got the friendship started. And I made many, many, many friends far and wide because of those holdbacks. And so now everyone's going to be, emailing and asking what. Well, I will share that independently, but not okay. in the world. Kevin and I got really close really fast because he's so easy to be friends with.
Yes.
I mean, I don't think he ever met a stranger. And he was so willing to help people and show people and on and on and on. Even when our dear friend Kathy Geffen, that lives right near me, needed help in the summer, he came down here, and he was here in Richmond with me for about 2 weeks. And the majority of the time he helped her on a really big job.
Yes.
And taught her so much more than she ever knew before. And it was just things like that, you just can't forget.
I had the privilege of working with him at the Artisan Project a few years back. And I'm going to share my funny story with Kevin. There's a deadline for those projects, and there's, several groups working on the individual window treatment presentations that we're going to be at IWCE. And there's a deadline. We're there for a couple of days, and we've got to get in, get it done, and get out. And Kevin had a plan, but the plan wasn't completed. And at one point, I think we had about 40 minutes left to the day, and that was it. We were done. And there was a piece of fabric laying there that was just incredible. And I said, Kevin, what are we doing with this piece of fabric? And he said, it hasn't told me yet what it wants to be. And I said, well, Kevin, it better hurry up and make up its mind, because we've got a deadline. We've got to go. And he just laughed and said, oh, we'll figure it out. And we did. He was right. but he made everyone feel like they were friends. Someone posted in one of the groups, he called me his kitten. And I know secretly that he had kittens all over the country, but secretly I know I was his favorite kitten. Yes. That's how he made people feel. And he gave hugs that stayed with you.
Yes.
And he shared information. I remember the one year at CWC, he was sitting with 2 or 3 people, and they literally were all like demonstrating with their hands how they did something. And they were pulling out their cameras or their phones and showing how they did things. And it was just so amazing to me, because I know he was the one that started it. He was the one that started that conversation and was telling people how he did something in particular. So I'm curious, Jonathan, what do you think Kevin's legacy is going to be in this industry?
Oh, that's a hard one. He's going to be remembered because he was so kind, and he was always willing to stop whatever he was doing to help people. And I mean, he helped me with my draperies, because I don't do window treatments that often anymore. And so he would help me with my things. When he would be needing to talk about an estimate, or about a cushion, or about something that didn't go quite right for him, we'd get on that phone and we would talk it through. Last year when we were down to the slipcover summit, and we were in the tech workroom, and I don't know, preaching about something, whatever it was. And when you're under pressure like that, it doesn't bother me, but it kind of makes me go talk a little faster and things. And so as I'm explaining something, he's all the way across the room with some other folks, and he just kind of, saunters over. He says, "Now let me ask you." And he sort of asked a question because I had skipped a step.
Oh.
And he did not come over and say, "Hey, ding dong, you missed so-and-so." He just came over, and nobody knew what he was doing. I did. And I appreciated it. And he just, asked the question, and it caused me to back up and reformat the answer. And those are the things that he did.
Yes.
And it was so effortless, and he just knew.
He did. I think you said something really important. It didn't matter what his deadlines were or how busy he was. If you needed help and you reached out to him, he had an answer for you, or he would help you find the answer, or he would drive several hours in his car to work with you for a period of time. And I know he did that with a number of people. And I keep thinking about that was so much more than an extra set of hands. Whoever that person was, they had the opportunity to learn some new things and to have that camaraderie and that companionship that Kevin so uniquely offered.
Yes. And it was just nonstop.
Yes.
It was just, he didn't think about it. He's like, "Okay, let's do it."
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that will be missed. That and the occasional chats in the Facebook groups where he would just drop a one-liner and just the conversation would just take off from there. And some of them were funny and some of them were bittersweet. And he had as much help as he gave. He also didn't hesitate to ask for help. Absolutely. And I loved that about him too.
Yes. And we should all be that way, because we all, it's a give and take situation always. And whenever we can help people, or whenever we need help, reach out to people. People will help you.
Yeah.
I'll help you, whatever. Call me. I'll do whatever.
Well, I think that would be a good legacy if we all remember to be as helpful and as kind as Kevin.
Absolutely. Because we all have things to help people with.
Yes.
Always.
Yes. And accepting help is a gift to the person who gives it.
Absolutely.
So I think that would be a great way for us to remember Kevin.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Kevin, welcome to the podcast. Thanks so much for being with me today.
Hey, Seal, thanks. This is such a great opportunity. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. And it's so fun because we did actually get to meet each other in person a few weeks back when we were both at the Artisan Project. And I'm not going to start off with that, although congratulations.
Well, thank you.
Why don't you tell me a little bit about who you are and what your business is about?
Well, my name is Kevin Kise. I am a drapery workroom by trade. I work solely for the trade, but I'm working on getting into more retail. And it's funny because I hear people say, oh no, all I do is retail, and they're getting sick of it. Well, my shoe is on the other foot to where I'm getting tired of doing wholesale, so I'm ready to start doing more retail. And so that's kind of where I am. My background, if we want to go back further,
yes, absolutely,
was so I grew up in a really rural town in southwest Columbus, Ohio. So it was out in the field. I was one of 5 kids. Dad was a mechanic. Mom was a homemaker. And they were like the first hobby farmers back in the day.
Okay.
So we had to learn to like make stuff because there was 5 of us. So we planted a garden. We put up corn. We put up green beans. We did the whole thing. And my grandmother sewed and crocheted. My mom absolutely could not sew, but she had a really good sewing machine. And she taught me well about cussing with sewing because Mom was that. I was 8 years old and I really couldn't hear this. But anyway, so I always wanted to learn how to do it. My grandmother says, all right, I'll show you how. So she pulls out the scrap of this polyester bulletproof whatever that she had. She goes, okay, we're gonna start off. We're gonna make your sister a skirt. I'm like, why do I make her a skirt? And she says, no, this is what we'll do. So I had to hand baste everything before I could sew it.
Okay.
And I'm like, well, don't you need a pattern? She goes, no, you don't need patterns. You just have to make things in blocks first and cut them apart and make it work. Because back in the 30s, she had to make all of her 11 sisters' dresses and whatever. So she taught me how. I'm like, hey, this is great. Then, of course, thank God for public schools with having home ec. So I actually learned how to sew in home ec, but I actually surpassed my teachers then. And then I thought, well, I can't make a living doing this. So when I was in high school, I learned that I wanted to be in culinary. So I actually went to culinary school, got my culinary degree, did that for 7 years. But while I was in college, I actually put myself through college doing wedding cakes.
Oh, wow.
And then the reason I'll tell you this story now is kind of funny is because one of my favorite magazines was American Cake Decorating magazines. Okay. That was owned, not at the time by Grace, but it was owned by somebody else. But she owned it eventually.
Immediately when you said that, because I heard her on a podcast talking about it.
So when I was here, I was 18, 19 in college. And it was back in the 80s. So one of my favorite magazines was American Cake Decorating. So I ended up going to culinary school, doing that whole thing, but I still sewed when I was in college. And I would do these really interesting chef hats and chef aprons and things like that. And people are like, where are you getting these? I'm like, well, I'm making them. They're like, that's just nuts. So eventually I grew up. I got out of the culinary business. I just couldn't handle it anymore. Went to work for Hancock Fabrics, which is also Minnesota Fabrics or whatever, some people, wherever it is in the country.
Right.
But I worked there and became a manager for that store. And then did that. And then, of course, things changed out. Life happened. And then when I came back home, I'm like, I really wanted to do draperies. I really want to sew and do draperies. How am I going to do this? And I answered an ad in the paper. We didn't have the internet then. Answered an ad in the paper looking for seamstresses for a workroom here in Columbus. I'm like, oh, I could do that. So when I got there, the woman that owned the place sent me in the back room with her sewers. One was a woman from Japan who was 64, 65 at the time. And she actually taught me Japanese tailoring.
You had told me about this, but I didn't know where you met her. Okay, so this was in a commercial room, and now you have a mentor who's teaching you some really interesting techniques.
Right.
Okay.
And my interview there was, okay, now we're going to make a pillow, and it's going to have cording and a zipper. and this is your interview. If you can do this, you can do it. And I'm like, wow.
Oh, wow.
And I've never done one of those before. I'm like, oh, okay. She goes, but I'll show you how to do it first. I'll show you first. So she would, that's how she would do it. She showed me exactly how to cut it out. She cut out exactly how it was, and she showed me how, and I watched her how to do it. But thankfully, with my culinary background, I worked with some chefs that were really, really hard to work with, that I had to learn to watch. I had to learn to watch and see how things were done.
Okay.
And I saw her do that pillow, and she goes, she pushes over some fabric. She goes, now you do. And I did it. Took me about 45 minutes to make a pillow, but it was perfect. I mean, it was pretty good from me never putting a zipper in a pillow before.
Right.
But she goes, okay, I say you hired. And I'm like,
okay.
Well, it's not, well, okay. But she wasn't the one that hired me. But sure enough, I worked for this woman for 5 years, and it was the time of, oh my gosh, it was the time of the poof valances and the swags and the bishop sleeves. And it was just high-end crap from the 90s.
Tammy Lanier and I were just talking about the poof valance and the stuffed tissue paper in it. Yep.
Yeah.
Those in my first house. Yep.
Yep. We did. And at the time, we had this one decorator that loved the fact that you could shear on a casing valance, and when it was done, it looked just like swags, which did not look just like swags at all. But she thought they did. But anyway.
So you worked in a commercial workroom for 5 years.
Yes,
you must have learned a tremendous amount in terms of how to work efficiently.
I did because there were 4 of us in the workroom. So we all had like a project that we had to get done in like a week. But I'll tell you what was funny was that after I sewed with Mitzi for all that time, I learned more than I realized by when we would get another house where a client had moved, and I would take apart their draperies and I would take apart their Roman shades, and I'm like, oh, that's how they did it. Oh, that's how they did it. And with my dad being a tinkerer and a transmission guy, and you know, dad's big thing was don't ever throw anything away in one piece. So
I don't think I've ever heard that advice before, I like it. He said,
don't ever throw anything in one piece. Take it apart, get the screws out, do whatever, save what you can, and then throw it away. So there's been a lot of times I have sent, I don't want to say this, but I've sent out shades and stuff that I have totally recycled or upcycled. I'll keep the ribbing, I'll keep the cords, not necessarily, but anyway. So it came to the point to where I was getting too big for this workroom. You know, I was working with designers. I was seeing what they were doing, and I realized, you know, I can do better than this. I really can do better than this. And I decided that I was going to actually go out on my own and do this. And I had gotten a very, very small loan from friends of mine. It was probably a $4,000 loan. And they said, if you're serious about this, you can do this. And I said, okay. So I had no place in my basement. I was renting a house. I had no place for anything to do this. So I actually rented a storefront, which was really risky, but I did it. I had a 12-foot table that I built right off the bat. I stole all the measurements. This is long before, you know, how to build a rolly table. It was long before this. I had to steal measurements from what I had, and I had a home Janome new home sewing machine. Okay. And I bought a commercial blind hammer for $400 out of the newspaper.
Oh wow!
And that's all I had.
Wow.
That's all I had. So the second thing I bought was a domestic serger.
Okay.
And I said, okay, so I'm ready to go. So this whole place was built on I had 1,000 square foot showroom with one table and 3 sewing machines and plywood set up on sawhorses cut to the length so I could lay fabric out on the sides and hang things up on the wall. So it was pretty innovative, I should say. So I did that, and then I got to the point again where I wasn't big enough. I thought, I just can't do this. I'm tired of working for these designers that they're not pushing me enough. So I actually went back to design school and got my degree, graduated in 2008, thinking the world is mine, when I realized the world was falling apart.
Yeah, that was not a good time, and that's when I started, so I feel your pain.
But I still had some of my clients that were still like pretty much a jobber. Like, I worked in tandem with an upholsterer. So if a designer came and they needed upholstery work, I would do her draperies. Okay. So that would work. But man, I remember in 2008, there was times where I would just do like a laundry valance for a teacher that had saved her money to do, from her taxes. Right. So we had that. So now where are we? We're almost 10 years out from that. And I hired my first employee. I'm basically still working for the trade. I'm not going to lie to you and say I'm not frustrated that I'm not out, knocking on doors and doing things like that. So that's my next big piece. How do I find this? I've gotten this far. How do I get to that next far? Right. So that's kind of my story.
Yeah. So I'm fascinated that, like you, I'm a second generation sewer. My mother did not sew. Teresa Paul said, "I can't sew on a button that'll last all day." That would have been my mother. I thought that was a hilarious statement. And my mom couldn't sew and had no interest. But my great aunt, actually, I guess it skipped 2 generations. My great aunt was a wonderful seamstress. But was it unusual for a young man to be sewing when you were doing all this?
Oh, my gosh.
Easily accepted?
It was not. It was not. It was funny because I can tell you this story because being a manager of Hancock Fabrics.
I'm even thinking that was unusual. It was a management position, but you're still in, we're not that far away from this being gender specific jobs and careers. So I'm impressed by all of that. And I'm wondering what kind of obstacles you had to overcome with that.
Well, it was really great because, how do I start? When I worked at Hancock Fabrics, it was almost like me working at Hancock Fabrics would have been like a woman working at an auto parts store.
Right. That's what I was thinking.
And and even to this day, when I go into a fabric store that they don't know me, they're like, "Oh, hey, honey, what are you making?" Yeah. Really?
Well, it's like when I go to Home Depot to get the boards cut for my valances. They're like, "Oh, sweetie, what can we do for you?" And I start telling them what I want, and they're like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
I know I am
here. there was a couple times where a woman would come in and she'd say, "I can't get the bust line right on this valance," because I skipped a part. I actually did formals for a little while, so I actually did bridal gowns. And this woman come in and she goes, "I can't get the bust right on my gown, and I don't know what to do." Well, she cut the princess all wrong, and it just didn't work out. And so she comes in. I said, "Oh, what are you working on?" She goes, "No, I just want to talk to Evelyn because she knows what's going on." I'm like, "Oh, okay, no problem." So Evelyn's like, "I have no idea, but that guy over there was the one you would talk to." And I said, "Oh, no, I have no idea what you're doing." Nope, not me.
But I'm even thinking your grandmother teaching you to sew was innovative and forward thinking for that time period.
It was, and
you're
rural.
You are much younger than I am, but still, it's we're not that far from all that.
Well, it's funny it's funny how this goes because I had brought this has nothing to do with sewing per se, but when I worked at the fabric store and I became a manager, for some reason they had discovered that I was gay. And they fired me.
Oh, Kevin.
And it was such a devastating blow that I said, well, then I don't need you. And growing up back in the time where you kept your mouth shut and you kept busy, I had to become an overachiever. So I studied fashion design. I mean, I was a kid and I would sneak out. And at the time we had this store called Media Play. I don't know if anyone's even heard of it or remembered it, but it was a small little place, kind of like Barnes & Noble or Borders Books. And you could go in, and I would secretly take the Vogue magazines back to my table and read it and flip through and know what everybody was doing, you know. So I learned fashion. I learned all that beforehand, you know, and I would read GQ magazine, and I would be like, this is great, you know, these fabrics people are using. So, but it was funny you mentioned that about my grandmother. My grandmother actually knew about me long before I knew about me. And she would actually say, you know, you're really special and you're going to be a force in this world one day.
Oh, Kevin, that is such a beautiful thing for her to say to you.
Yeah. And this was 1975, maybe.
Yeah, there were not a lot of people saying that. No. And I said, well, it's who I am. Yeah. So I ended up meeting. It was funny because there was a forum way back in the day. There was Cheryl's Forum, and I actually started talking with Scott Robbins, and I said, "Oh my gosh, there's another guy on here." I'm like, seriously, I'm like, this is awesome. So we struck up a friendship, and we did a really great job, you know, just talking back and forth. But back in the day, the forum was all I had, you know. And then you can't even imagine how excited I was to hear about Rolly Company, that I could actually order stuff that Joanne's didn't carry. And I was Kevin,
like, this is awesome.
I feel you on that one, because I met Rolly Company at a conference in Valley Forge, Pennsylvania, and I was literally just starting. I mean, I stood in front of that table, and at the time Susan Woodcock worked for them, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is just incredible. I was in absolute heaven. So
exactly.
We're window treatment geeks. It's okay. We can live
exactly.
with it.
Yeah, and I think I bought, I think one of those first conferences I probably bought maybe like 10 of the what are the patterns? Help me figure it out. Who are the patterns?
One of the Maffei
Yes,
patterns?
the Maffeis. Yeah. I probably bought 10 Maffei patterns. And I'm like, oh my gosh, these are so great. But the cool thing was that working with Mitzi, she taught me how to drape. So she taught me long before how to do swags and long before how to draft patterns. So she taught me all this. And I'll never forget, I was gonna bring this up. She was so funny about the way she taught me how to sew, that when I would cut out a jabot, she would have me do an inch seam allowance on the jabot, and then trim it back to a half an inch after I sewed it.
Okay. Why? And
I said, why are you doing this? Why are you causing me all this work? She goes, you know, sometimes shortcut 1,000 miles out the way. And I'm like, this is not a shortcut. And she goes, oh, I know. So she would have me, and back in the day we had antique satin that was flannel interlined. So we would do an inch seam allowance. And it reminded me of my grandmother having me to baste everything. I'm like, this is just BS. I'm not doing this. So I ended up, I would do it, press it. It was beautiful. It turned out. And I'm like, you know what? This is archaic and it's dumb and I'm not going to do it. And I ended up using half-inch seam allowances, sewed it. And because it was antique satin, it was wavy and it stretched. And when she saw that, she said, you did not do, why you not do ASA? And that's just the way she talked. It wasn't like I'm, but she would say, you didn't do it exactly the way I told you, and this is why. Because at the time, the antique satin was so thin that, and 48 inches wide,
Oh, that's right. I remember that.
Yes, it was 48 inches wide. That if you didn't add that extra half inch when you cut it out, it would actually, the bias would work against you.
Okay. That's, it's interesting, Kevin, because I think that's very much your personality. I can see you saying, all right, I'll do what you say. This is stupid. I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
And then you will never forget that lesson because you did exactly what she told you not to do.
Oh, sure. And then she looked at it. She goes, this is no good. This is not good. You have to... She goes, you're going to have to take this out and redo it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no. She goes, no, the jabots shouldn't curl on the ends. And I said, all right, well, but no, that was it. That's why she had me do these things.
Okay.
And the next thing she told me, and I think I mentioned this before, is she says, the student should always be better, should always strive to be better than the teacher. The student should always be better than the teacher.
You did tell me that, and I thought that was an incredibly generous thing for her because, let's face it, we all have egos, whether they're large or small, but to literally have somebody in front of you and say, I want you to end up being better than me, that's incredibly generous. I'm impressed by that.
And it's coming from a place where the chefs I worked with would be like, no, if you don't learn it, you're not getting it.
Right.
But she says, no, I'm not going to be here one day, and you need to pass that torch.
Wow.
And you need to expect your students to be better than you one day.
Wow.
And she taught me more things that I probably have forgotten. Mm-hmm. A gal a while ago had done an Austrian shade, and I'm probably going to tell her, but she mounted it to the back of a flat Roman shade.
Okay.
It was in the women to work room.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Right.
And if whoever's out there listening, forgive me, I don't remember your name, but I remember seeing that done in the way Mitzi had taught me how to do it. And I thought, see, this is one of those cases where the student is better than the teacher, because we never would have done it that way.
Right.
So it was incredible. And so being on Facebook and seeing the people on there now and the projects that they do was just, it's so overwhelming and so beautiful to see that. But it also gives me this whole thing that everyone's fighting now is the imposter syndrome. Mm-hmm. You're like, how do I know what I'm doing?
Yes.
And then I realized that everybody brings their own talents to the table.
Yes.
And it's almost a Buddhist thing where you kind of like realize we're all connected and all the knowledge is out there and nobody has any right to keep knowledge away from everybody.
Right.
So that's kind of how I grew up.
And it's funny because I remember, and as I said, I am older than you, but we had a young man in our neighborhood who started sewing. And I remember my brothers, sitting around the dinner table, going, a boy who sews? Oh, a boy who sews. He became a fashion designer. Mm-hmm. So good for him,
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, when one Christmas, when all of my great nephews were here, they wanted to see where Aunt Seal worked, and I took them into my workroom. They were fascinated, Kevin, and not there. Two of my nieces were in the room, and 4 or 5 of my nephews. And what I loved was 2 of the boys asked me if I could teach them how to sew, and no one said boys don't sew. And these are football playing, basketball playing, soccer playing kids. They're all involved in sports, but they were all intrigued by what I do. And I thought, we're turning the corner here. We're starting to make some progress. Slowly, but we're making it.
Exactly.
So you take this leap and you leave a commercial workroom and start on your own. So I often have to ask the question, when did you know it was a business? But you started out with a business. I did not put this on the list of questions, but did you have a business plan?
Yes, I did. And it fit nicely in my bottom drawer. It fit nicely in the bottom drawer next to, my other models.
Paraphernalia.
Yes. Yeah, it took up quite a long space in the next 4 years.
But you wrote it and you took the time to do it, which a lot of us did not do, Kevin.
I did. In fact, I took it one step further. I had a business plan, I had a mission statement, and I actually went to SCORE meetings.
Oh, wow.
These a lot of people know what these are, but and I don't remember what they stand for, but they're a bunch of old farts that all sit around and say, here's why your business isn't going to work.
It's Service Corps of Retired Executives, and I think they would highly resent that description of them.
They were not helpful to me.
Okay.
But
I had a wonderful experience, so...
These were a bunch of curmudgeony old farts that said, listen, what are you going to do when business is slow? what are you going to do when nobody's buying draperies now? I'm like, well, are you a drapery person? Because as long as they still make windows, I think I'll have a job, you know? And they said, yeah, but how are you going to manage this? I'm going like, you don't know what you're talking about. I got this. I'm going to do it, whether you're here or not. And I did it. And then I realized quickly how fast I hit page by page by page the first 5 chapters of the E-Myth. You know, how quickly that book has permeated my soul as far as all the mistakes I've made. I'm going like, oh yeah, look, flipping pages, going, well, there I am again. 1995, there's 2002, there's that. And I still laugh because I have still not finished that book because I'm thinking, I can't handle this anymore, and I'll just figure it out.
Well, I will tell you something. I'm absolutely shocked by the commonality here because I started that book twice and couldn't finish it. And we are reading it with Sandra Van Sickles. She is the new textile, and everybody meets online on Wednesday mornings. And when she said that was the book, I was like, I'm not hanging out for this. And I thought, you know, Seal, there's a reason this book keeps popping up in your life. You clearly need to read it.
Right.
And every week when we talk about it, I say, you all know how much I hate this book.
I know.
But I'm learning from it, and I am... My initial response over and over was, this doesn't apply to me. I'm not a franchise. I was so defensive about it, and I had to drop that and hear the lesson and listen to whether or not I could apply it to myself. So I absolutely feel your pain, and if it wasn't for Sandra, I would not be reading this book a third time.
Well, yeah, and I even bought the audiobook, so I was forced to listen to it while I sewed. You know, and I'm just like, there was several times that I actually hung up my shears and turned the lights off, and I said, I can't do this anymore. And then I don't know who it said. He goes, well, you don't get out of work that easy. Go back in there and get back to work.
You had that on one of the Facebook responses.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody did something, you're like, hanging up my scissors and leaving the workroom.
Yeah, not doing it. They're like, get back in there. You don't get to leave early on Friday anyway. So,
have you ever considered quitting?
Every day. Are you kidding me? You know what? I have to tell you, this is such a turning point for me because, you know, my husband Josh always teases me because I'm on Facebook a lot. But I have learned so much commonality and such camaraderie from everybody on the forums on Facebook that we can all post things going like, okay, I'm not having a good day. And this is why. Right. And there might be some swearing and there might be some whatever, but it's just like, this is the way it is. And whether you are a, 6-figure workroom or a tiny little workroom like me, it's the same story.
Yes.
And it's so refreshing and so wonderful. You know, when I was at the IWCE, it was quite humbling to see people that actually I didn't even know that would come up to us and say, we're friends on Facebook. And I felt horribly humbled and guilty because I'm like, okay, I don't know everybody on Facebook,
right?
But
and
they all knew.
They're too little.
Well, I know. I'm like, it's your picture of your dog. I don't know who you are.
I can't identify that with your name.
But I have been able to post things on Facebook that I have made myself laugh at myself.
Yes.
And I love that because no one else is laughing with me, except you guys.
We are laughing alone in our work.
I know. You're like, I can't believe I did this. There was one time where I did an entire drapery panel, put the hems in, bottom hems and side hems, and I flipped the whole thing over. And I'm like, going, these panels are upside down.
Oh, no.
Clearly upside down. And I'm like, I have probably used 6 hours of work making these things upside down.
Oh, man.
And whose fault's that? Well, I blame the dog.
Yeah.
It's easier.
That's a good one.
Yes.
Quitting thing, it's interesting because I get different responses. And so on those days that you want to quit, what stops you?
I think it's truly the love for the craft.
Okay.
It truly is the love for the craft. It's almost like, I think once you get a taste, like a bit of lint lung, where we all kind of breathe it in, you're like, well, how much lint we inhaled this month, Once we get a taste of that in our system, we realize, what else would you do? You could not work for somebody else at this point.
No, several of us have made that discovery. That is, yeah. I'm not a good employee anymore.
We're too bat crap crazy to, after we have dealt with, right now I've got 11 meters of the most gorgeous white voile shears, pretty common anyway, that I'm pulling threads on. For these, like 11 meters of shear. And when I say gorgeous, I'm using it very loosely. These are just regular shears.
Yeah.
And I'm pulling the threads on them. And I'm sitting here going like, why am I doing this? I'm like, because you've got Netflix on and you can watch Netflix while you're pulling strings. And you could not do that if you were in corporate America. No. So that is why you do it. We all have our guilty pleasures. Like, what are you doing? I don't know. Side hymns. I love side hymns.
Yeah, exactly. That's so funny how we're all so different. Uh-huh. And some of us have commercial spaces that we get to walk away from at the end of the day. Some of us have our workroom in our basement, like you and I both have. And there are many days when somebody in my family comes home and interrupts me, and I think, oh, why do I work from home? And then there are days when something else happens and I go, oh, I'm so glad I work from home. So, I'm no good for anybody else anymore. I can't work for I've been ruined.
Well, it's kind of like, how milliners used to work with, arsenic and mercury and all that stuff, because it kind of got in their system and they turned a little crazy.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that there's something with shears and flannel that make us just a little nuts.
The finish on the fabric.
On the fabric.
Something.
Exactly.
And when did you buy industrial machines? How long were you in business before you did?
It had to have been the first purchase I made.
Okay.
Because my Janome was an embroidery machine, and I bought it as a hobby, and it was way expensive. And I'm like, I'm not using this for...
my Bernina was the same way. I spent I think I bought multiple industrial machines for what it cost me to buy that.
And I'm like, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this.
Well, we beat the crap out of them.
Right. But, I think it's funny, and we kind of talk about this, but we don't really actually embrace it. But it's funny because... when you think about, I really need a new sewing machine. I really need an industrial sewing machine. If you put that out in the universe, something happens like, hey, my aunt's died and she's got this machine in her basement. Do you want to come and take a look at it? And you're like, yes. And it's all of a sudden there,
It's so funny that you say that, because when I was starting my business, I had been making bridal headpieces. And I would belong to a group not unlike WCAA and some of the other organizations, but it was a professional association of custom clothiers. They have since changed their name. But one of the women in the group made beautiful dance and ice skating costumes. And I mentioned at one of the meetings I was going to go into Home Deck. And she had an industrial sewing machine. And she gave it to me.
Oh my goodness!
She said it needs work. I don't know if it works. She literally, every once in a while on Facebook, I send her another thank you because I'm still using it. Do you remember what the first item you made professionally was?
Yes, I was working with this huge house. It was at the old workroom I was at, and I remember I was working and I was working with Mitzi, and she said, okay, today we're going to do a canopy for a bed. And I'm like, oh, well, that's interesting. And here what they did was, it was a Brunswick and Fee embroidered amazing tile. It looked like ceiling tile. This fabric looked like ceiling tile. It was a square bed that we had to gather to the center to a chandelier. They bought an altar from a church in Italy, and we actually built the bed around this thing.
Oh, wow.
And it was the first thing I ever did. So it was a geometric nightmare. trying to get this thing together.
But everything else is boring after that, Kevin.
Oh my gosh. Well, we had to build a frame, staple it to the miter to make it perfect. And it was the very first thing I did. It was like the second day there. I'm going like, oh my gosh, This is crazy. And then I helped her work with these shears. They were a striped, I don't even know who made the shear, but it was crazy gorgeous. It was almost like a sheer and velvet mix.
Oh, wow.
For this thing. And we did swags with crystal beads hanging from it.
Wow. And
we ended up going through the house, and it was just nuts to see this house. It was one of the houses that we did 5 moire shower curtains. And I'm like, nobody does moire shower curtains. They're like, yeah, but they don't use those bathrooms.
Holy cow.
So, but it was, here I am, a young rural kid, happy selling, Waverly fabrics. Cabbage Rose was in its heyday.
Velvet sheer and crystals and shower curtain. And
I'm like, this was awesome. And when I finally got it done, I was in tears. It was the most, and then that's how I knew it was hooked. Mm-hmm. So to answer your question back, why do you not quit? Because every single day I get 12 yards of yummy that comes in this door, and I just like, yes. Or I get the new sample books. Sample books to me are like the Sears catalog back in the day for the Christmas catalog.
Yes.
And you're like, yeah, what do you use this? I want to use this. So yeah, that was probably the first thing I did professionally, and it didn't go downhill from there. It was just nuts to see, yeah. So that was that was back in, when was it? This was probably right around 96.
Okay.
And stuff was just dripping with trim, and this whole house probably had an entire console factory in it. It was just everything.
Wow. Tell me what it was like to be at IWCE with the other vignette creators, the designers and fabricators, and what that was like for all of you going up on the stage.
It was very humbling. When I first started out learning about this competition, I didn't know much about it. And I thought it was going to be like Project Runway with, a bunch of, cat calling like, oh, I never would have done that. Oh, her stuff's horrible, and I would never have done that. And I thought, that's that. But wonderfully, it was not that at all.
It was not.
But I really kind of wanted it to be like, oh, really? You're using that? Yeah, I wouldn't dress my dog in that. But it was great because we were surrounded in a room in Texas with the most educated people in this world. I mean, Kathy Tucker was across the table from us.
I know.
And I'm going like, hey, Kathy, show me how to do this, So for all of us to get our projects done and see it up at the IWCE from afar, and you look at it, you're kind of like, it felt very surreal. Mm-hmm. And then to go up and seeing people like look at every one, they're like, oh my God, this is so pretty. And to go up on the stage to accept our awards, it was almost, we're used to being really behind the scenes. Mm-hmm, all of us are really used to being behind the scenes. So for us to be out front, it was very humbling, and I'm sure it was wonderful for me because I thought, yeah, this is good. And it was such a letdown when I finally got home because I thought, well, I'm back with shears.
You mentioned the imposter syndrome, but yet you have a certain level of confidence about certain things, and you know that you can do certain things. And that's not true for everybody in any industry or any creative field. Mm-hmm. What gave you the confidence to say, I can design something and I'm going to enter this contest? Let's start with that.
Well, okay. While I was at IWCE, I was in one of Michelle Williams' classes, and I think she summed it up best. And I hate saying this, but it was so true. She said that the difference between women and men is that women wait to be invited to the party, and men just crash the party, And I thought, wow, that's really true. And I hate that because, a lot of times I act so timid and so shy, but it, I guess it's kind of true. You know, when my dad, you always used to say, you go out there and you get what you want and you figure it out later how you do it, you know? So, when I heard your podcast with Terry, it was really funny because I thought, well, you know, I don't know if I have time to go to this. And then when they said the theme, I'm like, oh man, I'm going to have to do this, aren't I? And then I sketched it out just on like a piece of watercolor. I sketched out and I sent it over, and Terry was like, yeah, you're totally in. I'm like, really? You know, but true, you know, full transparency here, I was terrified to take that design to fruition.
Oh, absolutely.
And when I showed you, I said, hey, we're going to do this. And I was expecting you to kind of fall out going like, are you crazy? I'm like, yeah, I kind of am. And, you know, when we tried one thing, we'd ordered some vinyl that just did not work. So as just a off the cuff decision, we said, you know what, I've got a bunch of sequins. Let's do the stripes of the British flag in sequins. And again, I waited for you to like have the fallout and go like, are you crazy? But yet people seem to like my ideas and go like, well, let's run with it and see what sticks. You know, let's fling it against the wall and see if it sticks, you know? And it actually worked out quite well. And the one advice I can give everybody is, you know, everybody has a gut of what they're saying and what they're doing. Mm-hmm. You know, I have to tell you, there was a lot of times where I put my hands on that fabric and put my hands on the design and go like, what do you want to be? What do you want to be? What do you want to do? You know, and whether it's a meditation or a prayer or whatever, but I wait to listen from my gut to go, you do not want to use that vinyl. You want to do this. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times you have to, you know, it's a matter of mindfulness where you have to just kind of go inward and you just breathe and you go, I have the skills to do this, but I'm pushing the envelope and I've never done this before.
Right.
So what do I need to do? Mm-hmm. And just like when you're drawing, you break things apart from bigger boxes into smaller boxes.
Right.
And you're like, okay, well, this is what it has to be. You don't, you know, this is the way it has to be. So when I look at something, you know, when I look at something and I sketch it out and I give it to a client, a lot of times I don't have a clue how I'm going to do this. Yeah. You know, it's like, because when I design things, I'm going like, okay, we're going to do this, this, and this. And they're like, okay, we'll do it. Here's your money. Thanks.
And you go home and go, wait, what?
Yeah, exactly.
But
exactly.
Do you really, I mean, that's what I do. Do you really go back to the workroom and go, oh, what the hell was I thinking? Or do you say, okay, I'm going to figure this out?
Well, you do both.
Okay.
Oh, you do both.
Yeah.
There was, can I tell you a story? I went to this house once with a designer. Mm-hmm. She had no clue how to design this kid's room, and I worked in tandem with her. Mm-hmm. And I honestly think she just kind of stood back with her mouth open, going like, what are you doing? The kid was 5, and he loved Star Wars. But he had this weird gable and dormer in his room, and the parent wanted like a little reading nook mm-hmm. in this area. And like, what are we going to do here? You know, and then of course I just start seeing things in my mind going like, hey, why don't we do this? You know, kind of not kind of half pitched, but just kind of like, well, let's see. So I took my sketchbook out and I said, okay, we're going to do an LED etched headboard. And his name's Grady, so we're going to put USS Grady on here, and we're going to put all these Star Wars and Star Trek control panels at the end of this, so it's going to be like a headboard. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to make a reading nook that's like 48 inches wide by 58 inches long, so it's not a full bed, but it's someplace where he can pull back these ripple fold draperies and be in a cockpit of this thing. And I said, so imagine him, you know, and then we could do, you know, being able to read right there. And then what we could do is we could get one of these light boxes that they have above, like, you know, MRI mm-hmm. Machines. Let's get one that looks like a galaxy and put that on the angle part of the thing. And I'm like, yeah, let's do this. And then we could do like chenilles and lime greens and really cool things that kind of go with the room. And they're like, yeah, well, let's do the let's do the entire bench out of like a chenille and stuff. I'm like, okay, that's great. So I sketched it all out. She goes, I love it. Let's do it. And I drove in the car and going like, what the hell did you just sell? Where am I going to find a laser etched anything?
Yeah, right.
but I did have a source to do this, and I sketched it all out. And I went to my laser guy, and he goes, well, I'm not doing that.
Oh, yes, you are. I sold it.
Oh, you have to. So at that point, you're like going like, you know what? This is where you have to look at stuff and go like, I have no idea how it's going to happen. But we ended up buying some fiber optic or LED lights that went all the way around the frame. Mm-hmm. And I had to build a frame for this thing to go in. Mm-hmm. And it was pretty spectacular. And
I've seen pictures of it. It's very cool.
Yeah. So we pulled it off. I was sitting there going like, oh, my Lord.
But I have to laugh because you made reference to, like, the fabric hasn't. That was a statement you made to me during the weekend of the Artisan Project. I said, what do you want to do with this? And you said, the fabric hasn't told me yet what it wants to do. And I looked at you and I said, well, it better hurry the hell up because we are running out of time. And you laughed, and I was getting we got to get this done. We got to get moving. Uh-huh. And you, the decision to change the fabric on the flag was brilliant because the vinyl was not working out. Mm-hmm. And it made it that much more spectacular. But there were several times that you just made me laugh because I'm like, he does see what time it is, doesn't he?
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying, you can either have it done well or fast.
Listen. No, so you did something right, Kevin.
Well, it was so much fun. I enjoyed that so much. And, what I really need to focus on right now is being able to take that skill that I have, because I don't doubt my skill in fabrication, mm-hmm. but now this is going to be my year where I focus on the business.
Okay.
And that is the darkest, scariest path that I've ever been down, mm-hmm. Because I'm not sure, I don't like that part. Okay. I don't like that part.
So is it fear or dislike? Because I do ask a lot of people about fear, and I am always intrigued by the answer. Are you afraid to try anything new? Or are you afraid to make a mistake? Or is I just don't like that part of it, and I don't want to do it?
I think it's funny because I was thinking about this the other day. I thought, is the fear of failure the same fear as the fear of success? Is it the same fear? Mm-hmm. Is it the same fear of being able to maintain this level? A lot of people say, write on a piece of paper the amount of money you want to make this year, but make it an attainable goal, but push your envelope, push how much you want to make this month, do all this stuff. And for me to say, I want to be able to bring home $10,000 this month after expenses. Mm-hmm. For me to say that is such... it's kind of a scary goal. Mm-hmm. $10,000 is nothing. $10,000 is not a lot of money, but at the same time, you're sitting here going like, well, I don't know, maybe I should have asked for more. Maybe I should have done, But the thing is that say you make that $10,000 a month, and that's just a hypothetical. Right. Let's say you make that. And then next time you're like, okay, I want to make $20,000 a month. Mm-hmm. Let's say that by the end of this year, I'll have made my first $1 million this year, mm-hmm. Just by drapery and fabrication. Well, you better be huffing it. Yeah, we're selling a lot of Stroheim fabrication. You better be selling a lot of Stroheim fabrics and a lot of decorators. Anyway, but when I look at my creative side, I'm really good at that. But for me to calm down and work with the numbers on the other side, mm-hmm. it's just too hard. So I really did have to hire a bookkeeper mm-hmm. to take care of that for me. And I just can't just here, and they're like, throw your receipts in a box and use your MileIQ. Oh, MileIQ is probably the best thing to use on my phone too.
Okay. That's what I was going to ask about apps. What is MileIQ?
Yes. MileIQ is probably a godsend. It works on your GPS on your phone.
Oh, okay.
And when you are driving to a client's house, it will pop up and it'll say, is this for business or pleasure? And you swipe left if it's business, or swipe right if it's for pleasure.
Okay.
And it logs it in two different things.
Okay.
And at 51 cents a mile, you'd be amazed how much you underquote when it comes to your mileage traveling anywhere.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
I'll have to check that one out.
Yeah, it probably costs $9 for a one-time purchase.
Okay.
For that, but it totally pays for itself.
This is interesting, Kevin, because you said you don't like to look at the numbers, but look at how excited you are about this app.
Well, I like
what it registers.
Technology. I mean, I'm a dude. I like
I don't
gadgets.
want to do anything with it. I just want to have the.
I'm able to take that and have that sent to my bookkeeper and give her my box of receipts and say, here, do this. So this is where I'm most vulnerable right now, is how do I, continue this? And maybe inside there's a secret fear that I'm not going to be able to design anymore, that I'm going to be all, businessy,
Oh, Kevin, there's no fear of that. Trust me. I think I can absolutely say with certainty that's not.
It's all real business then at that point. So, what 3 items in your business could you not live without? Oh, 3 things. You mean like tangible, edible, or
animal, vegetable, mineral?
Animal, vegetable, mineral. I'll tell you what. I am a real geek when it comes to. When it comes to my phone, because the one thing that keeps me going when I'm sewing at like 2 a.m. and I'm hating life right then because I'm sewing at 3 a.m. is to pop on podcasts and listen to other people's stories. Mm-hmm. That is the human connection that I miss.
Yes.
Having that human connection in your basement.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah. So that's number 1 is my favorite. Mm-hmm. Absolutely my favorite. The second thing is, I've been really, really blessed with some really great machines. Like, honestly, if you take care of, I have a straight stitch. I still have a domestic serger. I don't use I don't use a commercial serger because I think they're from the devil when they come unthreaded, and I can't handle it.
Yeah.
Did you hear that collective sigh throughout the podcast world?
Yes.
Did you hear that? And my blind hammer, I love my blind hammer. And it's so weird and geeky, but side hems are like my favorite thing.
Isn't that funny?
And I get some people that say, I'm going to tell myself. I get some people that say, oh, I only hand sew my hems. Well, that's great. Good for you. I just can't. I mean, I will if I have to.
Right.
But that's one of the reasons that I posted that tip on how to sew through toilet paper with my blind hammer.
That was a fantastic tip. And
I said,
videoed.
Yeah.
Did you do that yourself, or did somebody hold the camera for you?
I did, but if you listen to it, I'm giggling because I got a pin in my mouth. I'm holding the camera and I'm trying to pick toilet paper out. But you can hear me giggling through that video. But no, it's one of those things that I learned. I thought, you know what? I have got worse open casement goods that are coming.
Incredible open weave goods. I don't know what to say about some of the pictures that you've shown. I looked at it and said, no.
Yeah. Well, I work with some really great designers that buy me cravat couture. That's here. You can do this. Okay.
I trust you.
Here, you can do this. Okay, that's fine.
All right. So your phone. And
my blind hammer, and that's so weird. What are other people saying? Let me see.
I don't know. I just started asking this question, so I don't have a lot of answers.
See. I do not. Well, I don't have a do-a-fix, so I can't say that. But I think my most cherished thing that I have are my notes from when I first started.
Okay.
And some of them were Xerox copied right from Mitzi's notes, and they're half in Japanese.
Okay.
And
do you read Japanese?
I don't,
okay. But it's still precious to you.
Well, it's the way she taught me how to fold jabots is all numbers, So the way she taught me how to do it is, they're my notes and her notes mixed together.
Okay.
So it's like your grandma's recipes.
Oh, absolutely. That's exactly what I thought of.
So when I pulled those out last week, I actually had to do a jabot, which I haven't done swags and jabots in years.
But
I actually pulled it out. Yeah.
It's really crazy.
Well, maybe it's coming back. You never know. But I've got these feelers in my hands. I was able to put my hands on those notes, and I just thanked her. I said, thank you for this. Because she say, as long as you know how to do this, you'll never go hungry.
Nice.
Because she would say, but then she also said, like I mentioned before, don't die with your song still inside you.
That I'm glad you remembered to say that, because you did share that with me when we were in Texas, and I thought that was beautiful.
Yeah, she would always say, we're just stewards of our knowledge, and it's not for us to keep because it doesn't do us any good, and you have to pass that torch to somebody else. And right now I hired a gal who is so excited about sewing. She's 25 years old. She's so excited about sewing, and she just thinks I'm a rock star for some reason.
We won't tell her otherwise. There's no reason to discuss that.
She doesn't need to know this. But I teach her things, and she's like, I had no idea that could even be done that way. But I told her, I said, I'm teaching you this so you can get better than me. She goes, oh, I don't think I can. I'm going like, you better, because you've got to teach somebody else.
Right.
So for us to teach this, I really wish there was some sort of an apprenticeship, that we could actually bring people in and say, here's what we're doing.
Right.
We can't let this craft die.
Well, that's actually one of the big initiatives of the WCAA right now, is to be looking for younger, and it doesn't have to be younger, but somebody who's at least going to be in the business for a while, because as I approach retirement, I really see how important it is. And if it's, we're not exactly sure when that light bulb is going to go on for someone, but if we start planting the seed when they're in high school and college, and then continuing that and bringing people into the industry and teaching them the standards right away, and teaching them that they can make money off of it if they don't give it away, then that's, but I think that is part of our job, Kevin, is to pass that on.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And, I remember back in the days when I was reading Kitty Stein, How to Price Your Work, and, meeting Cheryl at the workrooms. It's so funny to hear the common denominator of everyone in these podcasts to say, oh, my gosh, I remember the first time I met Cheryl.
Right.
And how warm and genuine she was and how amazing she was. And with me being a very small handful of guys, she really kept us under her wing and saying, you're going to make this industry what we need it to be. Not that women couldn't do it, but the fact that we were so diverse, that we were able to do that. And I'll never forget when she told me that. I'm like, what? I don't know what I'm doing. They're like, no, but you will. And, just meeting the early, everybody, I'm probably going on and on, but just to be able to absorb all the knowledge from everybody in this workroom, from these groups.
The people who have been so generous, and that's, I've said over and over, I think this is such a generous industry, and I would not be in business today if it wasn't for the people around me who do exactly what I do. So clearly there's enough work for all of us.
Oh, yeah.
We're physically not far from each other, some of us. There are occasions like this where we're, halfway across the country from each other, but and I know I can call you and say, hey, Kevin, how do you do this? But it's a really generous group of people.
True disclosure, we all won just by being there.
Oh, absolutely. They were all fabulous.
So, that was great. So this, next year we have to pick up our game if we, I told Terry, I said, I don't know if I should do this next year. She goes, oh, no, you're doing it next year.
Oh, yeah, you are.
Oh, no, you're doing it next year. But it was just at that point to where we look at each other's projects and go you know what, these are all really good. So then we realize how much we have to step up our game.
Right.
How are we going to do that? So, so to answer your question, it wasn't really a big, oh, you won everything. Okay. It was a matter of, you were chosen one of 6 in the country, to do this.
Right.
And that was very humbling. And that was very much a, wow, it's like, really, is that where we are? And it was cool because it was such a big deal because I had actually placed a couple designs for the IWC design contest and I didn't place.
Okay.
And I thought, oh, that was a real bummer. And I thought, yeah, but that means those standards have to be pretty high. So they're not going to just let anybody do this. So it teaches us as an industry that this is kind of like our Oscars,
right?
Where we can build up our game and we can really just go, here you go, So yeah, it was one of those things where, as they showed my design on stage, I was like, this is crazy.
And that's what I'm thinking. Did you have a moment to celebrate it and absorb it? And because that's one of the things Michelle Williams talks about is, did you celebrate it? Did you take a moment and say, wow, this is great?
And I was able to do that. And I was sitting at a table, obviously I texted you right off the bat.
You did.
Or you texted me right off the bat. I'm going like, look, this is so great. And then we were able to just be collective because, it was such a great collective time for all of us.
Yes.
So just seeing our babies up there,
And it's funny because I'm not a competitive person. Like when my girls played sports and their team won, I felt bad for the other kids. Like it's not in my nature. So when I see something like this, my first thought is similar to yours. 6 people got chosen. Their designs were chosen. To me, that's 6 winners.
Yeah.
And that's how I generally look at those things. But, there has to be a moment where you say, okay, I did well and I'm happy with myself.
It comes to the point where you kind of go, yeah, I guess I'm supposed to be in this. Yeah, I guess I picked the right groove. Yeah. So, and then next year, I'm already starting to think about next year. It's like, how am I going to do this? How can I do a water feature? And how can I do a smoke feature? How can I do a water feature in these things? It's funny because I think as long as I'm involved in it, I can see these things just becoming more theatrical and just who knows? Who knows where the dark side of my brain goes?
To get
who knows? It may be a whole Mardi Gras float by the time I'm done with it. You just never know. But
let me ask you this: do you ever get to sew for pleasure?
Well, it's funny you should mention this because I was asked. My husband Josh is saying, okay, there's an art show coming up, and you've got until May 31st to enter it, and the emphasis is on textiles.
Oh, wow.
And are you interested? And I'm like, I kind of am.
Okay.
And one of the things that I've always been really impressed with is doing silk screening and designing my own textiles or manipulating my own textiles. And I can't give it all away, but one of the things I did was I actually bought a box of glass slides from the Dayton Air Force Base that were used for educational purposes, and they were probably 2-inch squares, and they went on rotation, and they were all like charts for aviation and weather patterns and all this stuff, these slides that were just clear glass with kind of like, gray, black, and white and things printed on them.
Okay.
So one of the things I want to do is I actually want to incorporate those in pockets on shears where the light shines through them.
Oh, wow.
And do that as a banding on a drapery type thing or on a quilt.
Okay.
To where the light shines through the quilt to show these really intricate things.
Right.
Where you have to get right up on it and maybe put like a light box between it.
Okay.
But
wow.
So, and it's going to have, I kind of want to use common objects, like maybe bit of honey wrappers or, maybe, learning to sew through Coke cans, just like incorporating that into the common fiber of who we are. So to sew for pleasure, I'm kind of like, yeah, it would have to be really artsy.
Okay.
Or really functional. Like if I needed a new pot holder.
There are people that would say they sell them in stores.
I know.
But if it makes you happy to make a pot holder, Kevin, then you go for it.
Well, everybody's going to ask themselves this question too. It's like, at what point do you go, I am not sewing after sewing all day?
Right. That's why I asked this question, because for some of us, it's just like, I'm done. I can't do anymore.
No. In fact, I feel guilty if I sew any of my own stuff. Because I'm like, I could be making money on this.
Yeah.
I could be making money. If I'm going to sew, I'm going to be making money.
I want to be making money.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you do extremely well?
Overthink things.
This is supposed to be a positive thing, Kevin.
Okay. All right. I am really, really blessed with the ability to think outside the box.
After you describing what you want to do for that art contest, I think you're right about that.
I am really good at that. And I don't take that lightly. That is a gift that was given to me that I don't take lightly. Okay. Some people can, do whatever, but that is my gift. I do that extremely well. I'm able to look at something in 3D. When I was a kid, in fact, all the young kids out there listening, listen to this story. If you're 10, if you got a kid that's 10, bring them in the room. Back in the day, we used to have to take these batteries of tests that kind of show if you were better at English or better at math or better at whatever. And I had such a crazy high spatial score that I was able to see things in 3D that was just blowing people away to see, it was like almost 100% when I was that age, because I grew up playing with Lego and I grew up playing with all this stuff, and it was very a building thing. So I learned with that. But I went through some difficult times in my life, and I wasn't really good at math.
Okay.
Well, I didn't realize that because I'm, is it left brain that's creative? I don't know. The other side is the math side. I could not mix the two, so I was really not good at math. So I failed geometry. I did all this stuff. I hated algebra, which is ironic because we do geometry and algebra every single day.
Yeah.
They say, you'll never use that in real life. Well, you kind of do.
Yeah.
Here it is.
Yeah.
But I was told by a teacher that I could not be an architect because my math was not good. And I was not to think about going to Ohio State School of Architecture because I wasn't that good. And I listened to them.
Yeah.
And that was a problem.
Yeah.
So, and I wondered how many of those times I said that same loop in my head, I wasn't good enough to do this.
Right.
So if you're listening to this, remember the calls are coming from inside the house, inside your own brain.
Right.
And if you can learn how to hang up that phone, you'll go places.
Yeah. It never ceases to amaze me, Kevin, how one statement from a person in authority can affect how a child sees themselves. And I had a similar experience with an art teacher when I was in elementary school. And she put a bunch of objects on the desk and told us to draw them. And I was struggling because I don't overthink anything ever. And she came by my desk and I hadn't started anything. She said, "It's not that hard. Just draw what you see." So then I assumed that I must not be very good, because if it wasn't hard and I couldn't do it, it was a problem. And for some bizarre reason, I took an art class when I got to college. I don't know what prompted me to do it, but the very first day we had to do some charcoal drawings of our hands and our feet. And the teacher walked by and he said, "How long have you been drawing?" I looked at the clock. I said, "About 15 minutes," because I'm also very literal. And he said, no, really, how long have you been drawing? I said, "For 15 minutes. This is my class." And he said, "You must have been drawing from the time you were a little kid." And I looked at him. I'm like, "No, I don't draw. My art teacher told me I couldn't draw." And it really just amazed me that I had spent all of those years thinking I can't draw because I was told I couldn't. And so I'm glad you brought that up, because the calls are coming from inside the house. That one I have not heard before, but
it is.
Absolutely.
The calls are coming from inside the house. You're the one that's saying it. If you hear that one call, you keep playing that on a continuous loop.
Yep.
I'm not good enough. I can't do this. I'm not good enough. I can't do this. And if you're fatigued, or if you're just feeling blue one day, those calls come more often.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. So I asked this question, but I don't want it to be negative. I think we have to acknowledge that there are things we don't do well. You've decided to hire a bookkeeper. I've decided to hire a bookkeeper because I am not good at that. What do you not do well?
Time management. Oh, my Lord, no. I've got such lofty dreams and goals. And when I was younger and I was working as a chef in the restaurant, I would look at the books and go, oh my gosh, we've got like 200 people coming in for dinner. And I would relish that. I'm like, awesome, we can do this and knock this out and do this. Now, if I look at something going like, okay, you've got 9 Roman shades and you've got 6 pairs of draperies, and you have pillow shams and dust skirts, all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. Well, okay, let's go shopping first. And then we'll take a nap. And then we'll see what's on Facebook. And then we'll do all this stuff. And I got plenty of time. And it's time management for me is my Achilles heel. It is absolutely everything to me. Because I think as artists, we live on that rush, But I'll swear, as you get older, I just turned 50. As I get older, I can't rebound from that rush. It's too hard. Yeah. And it's one of those things you're like going, well, you can't get drunk like you did when you were in college either.
Yeah, there are a lot of things we can't do anymore, Kevin.
Exactly. But like what I've had to say is you have to, under promise and over deliver.
Right.
And I constantly get this backwards. Okay. Constantly get this backwards. To the point of like, well, I've got a Roman shade I have to do, and it's 3 a.m. And why are you doing this? Yeah. So.
Okay, we all have to have something that we're not good at, Kevin.
Yeah. Well, time management.
To work on.
Yeah, time management for me is one of those things that I don't think I'll ever. It's not the architect thing. It's just I just don't think my brain works that
way. So what about you would surprise people?
I love that you asked this question because I don't know how many people know this, but I am a beekeeper.
I do know that about you, but yes. I was very surprised when I found out. I think that is so cool.
I am a beekeeper, and not just a beekeeper, but I'm a mentor for the Ohio State University's bee yard.
Oh, wow.
So, which is kind of cool because let's say that you wanted to have bees, you weren't sure what you're doing, you take the classes. There's a place at OSU that we have like 9 hives, and everybody comes out and we start the hives from 0 through the winter. Okay. Every year it's a whole new set, and we get all these new bees in there. These newbies come in, and it's so exciting to see them ask the questions that everybody has asked. And I'm the moderator of the OSU Bee Yard Facebook group, where people can post pictures like, "What are my bees doing? What does this mean? Are they going to swarm? What's happening?" And it's so great to see everybody have the same identical questions. Okay. And I love that because I think we can see that in our group as well.
I was thinking that's definitely a correlation.
But no, I'm a beekeeper, and I share my bees with a gal who has a farm. So she takes care of them, and that's probably about a good 40 minutes away. So I don't get to go see them as much, but she takes care of them. And so I'm assuming they're all fine. So, yeah.
In what ways do you think you're resilient?
Oh, that I'm still here.
Hey, that's a good one.
That I'm still here. I love the idea that Every day when I wake up, I get to learn something different.
I love that.
That I get to learn, and it's a privilege.
Okay.
It's a privilege. And when I see, people putting things on their Facebook pages going like, look, I did these Roman shades. I mean, I'm going to call out Greg Moore for a minute. He did sheer Roman shades that were lined in lining.
Yes, I saw them. They were fabulous.
And I'm like, good God, and then, and there's all the people that are doing like the Austrian shades. Mm-hmm. We got that. And then, of course, there's Rosemary Garner that just does the most amazing Roman shades and it thinks nothing of it. And she just thinks nothing of anything anyway. She's like, that's just what I do. I just do my thing. That's what it is, So, but it's the fact that I get to wake up every morning and look at what people are working on. And I'm totally envious with Kim's Upholstery, and I see all these people that are doing this upholstery. I'm like, how do you do this? And they're like, Kevin, it's not that big of a stretch. I'm like, I know, but I haven't done it yet. Just the fact that I'm able to call this group my own mm-hmm. and absorb so much from them is so much different from when I first learned that everybody's kept I keep my sources secrets.
Yeah.
I don't reveal my sources.
And I heard that a lot in the beginning, interviewing Margie Nance and a lot mm-hmm. of other people when they were getting started, no one was sharing it. I think that evolution for our industry is so important that everybody is so willing to share.
Right.
What traits do you think are important to an entrepreneur?
Never, ever, ever, ever give up.
Yeah.
Never, ever, ever get up. Because the alternative to work with somebody else is so much worse, and you will hate it. So whatever you get, whatever comes your way, you just make it work. And that's just how it is. That's probably not a good textbook answer. But you sit there and you're like, if I were to work with somebody half my age and they wanted me to file something mm-hmm. or sweep the floor or do whatever, I would have went, yeah, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So, but as an entrepreneur, you're given this passion that you just can't stop. It just can't stop. So you just never, ever, ever give up. I find it, I kind of find it sad when people say, okay, I'm leaving the industry and here's all my stuff. Mm-hmm. I wish that I had the opportunity to go and just give them like $5,000, take all their stuff, keep it in storage, and then wait till they calm down.
Right.
And then go back and say, here you go.
Yeah. My friend and accountability partner for the podcast is Colleen Mook, and her daughter, who is a wise young woman, said, never give up on a bad day.
Oh,
I thought that was great advice. So before I ask you the final question, how can people find you?
Oh, my gosh. Well, I'm always on Facebook, sadly. I'm always on Facebook. But I'm actually been inspired, and you got to hold me to this.
Well,
but I'm actually going to start.
Podcast, so
I am. I'm going to start a blog.
Okay.
I'm going to start a blog, and the name of it is going to be called Thread and Concrete: Memoirs from a Workroom Basement. And in that, it's going to be stuff that I'm working on. What am I doing right now? I hope that when people look at it, that they don't take it too seriously. It's like, why are you eating M&Ms when you're working on the white linen panels? Why?
I'm joking. It's okay.
Yeah, no, I really wasn't that day. It was that whole sports ball thing with the Super Bowl.
That was a fun.
It's like, why are you drinking beer? Well, I couldn't help it. That's what it was. But I'm going to start a blog, and I'm going to start it for me because I want to know, what does it actually feel like to be in this business for 20 years? Mm-hmm. And I can't go back in time. I've got some really funny old pictures of some cabbage rose cornice boards I did. I thought they were the deal, But if I'm able to help new people, that's what it would be. So anyway, It's probably going to be affiliated with my website, kiseinteriors.com.
Okay.
And then I also have my Kise Interiors Facebook page.
Okay. So people can look for you there.
Yeah, and I don't have a book signing anywhere coming up soon.
Okay. Well, we'll have to get that book written first before we schedule the book.
And I don't have, I don't have any big conference deals coming on. I don't have any upholstery weekends coming up. So it's just me.
That works. So the last question I always ask is, what advice would you give to someone new in the business or in the business for a while?
Never give up learning, which is really, really kind of a half-assed answer. But the point is that as long as you can go out, as long as you can go outside and you take a walk and you look up and you see the patterns that are in trees, or if you can walk down the street and say, hey, check out the way this looks with this, or anytime you go into a hotel, which everybody does this, anytime you go into a hotel and you look at the drapery treatments,
we all do,
and these are horrible, you realize that you're already there.
Yeah.
This is where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
So to get started, you have to be inspired. So inspiration comes from anywhere. Go and, one of my favorite things, this is another app I love, is called Texture. And Texture is a magazine app. And it's like Netflix. And you pay $10 a month. And every Tuesday they come out with new episodes, and it's literally every magazine in print. Like there's Elle Decor, there's Home House Beautiful, there's Architectural Digest, there's all this stuff, and you read it like Netflix, and you read it and you delete it, so you don't get like a million copies sent to your house every day.
Okay.
But it's $10 a month, and you can read to your heart's content, and you're able to save things in a scrapbook.
All right, now I need to tell you that I have been a magazine junkie in a past life. And I weaned myself from my magazine addiction.
Okay.
And I believe I just found a new way.
Sorry about that.
So I'm not sure if I should thank you.
No, you don't have to put them anywhere.
Well,
you delete it from your... Yeah, you don't have to put it anywhere.
Yeah, I'm going to have to check this out.
There's that, and then there's another one called Issue. It's ISSUU. And I'm not going to call anybody out, but I've actually followed Deb Barrett's magazine followings on there, and there's old Vision magazines on there. There's old things from, they're all past issues.
Oh, cool.
Of really great things, and that's free.
Okay.
And that's free. But I go in with my iPad, sit down with a cup of coffee, and I look at all the new things like when I'm going on House, I'll go in and type in window treatments, and I'll see what people are doing. And so if you're getting in this business, you have to absorb and drink it in as much as you can, and realize you're not going to be able to remember everything, but there's going to be something you're like, hey, I really like X. I think I'm going to design yachts now. I'm going to I know how to do boat cushions. Maybe I'll move to Florida and I'll do boat cushions for these custom yachts. Who knew? So, so if you start out being inspired, that never ends. Just never, ever stop being inspired. Go to museums. Listen to a piece of music. You can always hear something in everything. If you open your eye, your third eye chakra.
Kevin, this has been a pleasure, and I really appreciate the time that you spent with me today recording this podcast. I really appreciate it.
Well, good. Well, I hope there's people still left after 2 hours, but it's been my pleasure. It's been my pleasure. So thank you very much.
I hope that hearing from Kevin and hearing his laughter was helpful for you after such a tough week and after losing him. And I hope that you will jump onto the So Much More podcast Facebook page and share your favorite memory with Kevin. I was rolling laughing when Jonathan was sharing his meetup story with Kevin, because I had not heard it before. And I think that we all have some funny memory of Kevin that it would be great to share. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you find a way to take Kevin's memory and do some good with it, and that would be a great legacy. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a great day.